Like, what if you get a guy that, like, hasn't been tested and maybe has some promise and maybe gets wrapped up in the hype and maybe gets a little nervous, and this is his first chance at a big show, and Jake Paul can crack.
So, the countdown to Jake Paul's next fight is on. And with only days to go, Joe Rogan just dropped a bombshell. The MMA kingpin has gone full throttle and exposed Jake Paul's biggest weakness, sending the entire combat sports world into a frenzy. Love him or hate him, Jake Paul has become one of the most talked about names in boxing over the past couple of years. From YouTube sensation to legit fighter, this guy's transition has been nothing short of wild. He's faced big names like Ben Askren and Tyron Woodley, and let's be honest, Jake's been backing up his talk with some pretty shocking wins. Here's the thing, even though Jake Paul has built up a record that gets people talking, some folks still aren't convinced. The combat sports world is packed with skeptics who think Jake has some serious holes in his game.
Tyron Woodley is not a boxer.
Yep. And nor is Ben Askren, who he knocked out as well.
Right.
We would have gotten some answers if Tyson Fury didn't get injured, or excuse me, if
Tommy
Fury didn't get injured leading up to that fight, because he was the initial opponent.
And now, with the fight just days away, one of the most respected voices in MMA and boxing, Joe Rogan, is adding his 2 cents to the conversation. And trust me, he didn't hold back. So what exactly did Joe Rogan say? Well, if you know Joe, you know he's got a sharp eye for weaknesses. This guy's been in the game forever. From commentating on UFC fights to training in multiple martial arts, Rogan sees the fight world like no one else.
If Jake Paul wasn't Jake Paul, if he wasn't this YouTube guy, he was just a boxer, and you see a boxer knock out the former UFC welterweight champion, not just the former, but one of the best ever.
If there's one thing we know about Joe Rogan, it's that he doesn't sugarcoat anything, especially when it comes to combat sports. And when it comes to Jake, Rogan has been brutally honest about what he sees as the YouTuber turned boxer's biggest weaknesses inside the ring. Rogan didn't just point out minor flaws, he went straight for the jugular, calling out Jake's lack of refined technique, shaky defense, and most importantly, his sluggish footwork. According to Joe, Jake's footwork is far from the level of a seasoned pro, and that could be the fatal flaw in his game.
You know, I think he's like any other young up-and-coming boxer. It's just everybody dismisses him because he's a YouTuber.
For sure. It's easy to dismiss him, but I was there when he knocked out Tyron, and I was like, man, I'm done with this kid. I never wanted to corner another fight in my life, man. I was like, yo, he just knocked my boy flat out on his face, man. I was heartbroken.
Bro, he has power.
Now, as much as Joe Rogan has been critical of Jake Paul's boxing skills, he's also given the man credit where it's due. Joe knows the fight game inside and out, and one thing he can't deny is that Jake Paul is a master at selling fights and bringing in the audience. Whether it's through his trash-talking, wild social media stunts, or straight-up controversy, Jake has a talent for keeping people glued to their screens. Rogan even admitted that Jake's ability to generate hype and pack arenas is something not many fighters can do, especially in such a short time. But let's be real. When it comes to actual skills in the ring, Rogan has made it clear that Jake is still very much a work in progress. Sure, he's got knockout power and a strong right hand, but his fundamentals are still shaky. Rogan's pointed out that while Jake's ability to sell a fight is undeniable, his actual boxing abilities remain questionable at best. Joe's not hating. He's just keeping it 100. You can be the best showman in the world, but when the bell rings, it's your skills that determine whether you walk out a winner or not. This isn't just criticism for the sake of it. Rogan's pointing out that in boxing, footwork is everything. It's what allows fighters to control the pace, dodge punches, and set up their attacks. And with Rogan shining a spotlight on this weakness, it's clear he's not holding back. He's essentially warning Jake and his fans that his current skill set might not be enough to survive a higher-level opponent. Alright, so we've already talked about Jake Paul's footwork, but if you thought that was the only area where he's lacking, think again. According to Joe Rogan, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Rogan has gone down a long list of weaknesses that Jake still hasn't fixed, and it's all being exposed just 8 days before his big fight. Joe isn't holding back, and honestly, Jake's got to be feeling the pressure right now. So, what else does Jake fall short on? Let's break it down. First up, defense. And spoiler alert, Jake's not exactly known for having a solid guard. Rogan's pointed out that Jake Paul has a tendency to drop his hands, leaving himself wide open for counterattacks. Now we all know that in boxing, defense is just as important as offense, but Jake doesn't seem to take that seriously. Instead of keeping his guard up and protecting himself, Jake relies too much on his offense and his belief that he can outpunch his opponents. Joe didn't hesitate to call this out, saying that Jake's defensive game is almost non-existent. Jake drops his hands way too much, Rogan said. He leaves himself wide open after he throws a punch. Against someone who knows how to counter, that's a recipe for disaster. Rogan isn't just being harsh for no reason. We've seen this weakness in action. In several of Jake's fights, when he's going on the attack, he's wide open to getting hit, and it's only a matter of time before a seasoned boxer takes full advantage of that. With only 8 days left until the fight, is Jake really prepared to tighten up his defense? Or is he walking into the ring with a glaring hole in his game? Next up, Rogan highlighted something that's been whispered about for a while now: Jake's stamina. While Jake's been able to score some flashy knockouts, Rogan has questioned whether he has the gas tank to go the distance in a hard-fought battle. Joe's pointed out that Jake tends to fade in the later rounds, and this could spell trouble against an opponent who can weather the storm early and push the pace as the fight drags on. Rogan's not wrong. Jake's biggest knockouts have come early in his fights, and he hasn't been truly tested in a grueling, long bout. If his stamina falters, his power won't matter in the later rounds. And with Joe Rogan putting that on blast, you better believe Jake's next opponent is going to be aiming to drag him into deep waters and test that cardio.
Right.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like, why are we letting this happen?
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, but he's made for it, man. Like, he's made
Mike
for it.
is?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Listen,
what he is.
Dude, he's perfectly capable of knocking him out.
He is perfectly capable. If he zigs when he should have zagged, if Mike can close the distance in a way that he doesn't expect, and Mike also has layers upon layers of attacks that are in his mind.
Experience is everything in boxing. You can have raw talent, but without the experience, you're still a rookie. And that's another point Rogan didn't hold back on. Joe's called out Jake's lack of experience compared to seasoned pros. Sure, Jake's fought some big names, but Rogan made it clear that fighting ex-MMA fighters or other celebrities isn't the same as facing a true experienced boxer. Experience builds ring IQ, and that's something you can't fast-track with social media hype. It takes years of learning, sparring, and fighting to develop those instincts. Jake's trying to skip the line, and Rogan's called him out for it. Without a deep well of experience to draw from, Jake's boxing IQ is limited. This lack of experience could be his undoing, especially if he faces someone who can exploit every gap in his game. Now, here's where Rogan really hit hard. Jake Paul's antics outside the ring are legendary, and not in a good way. Joe has criticized Jake for not taking his training as seriously as he should. Instead of dedicating himself fully to improving his craft, Jake's often seen on social media clowning around, pulling pranks, and making fun of his opponents. Rogan didn't hesitate to point out that this overconfidence and lack of focus could be Jake's biggest downfall. Jake's spending more time on Instagram than in the gym, Rogan said. You can't treat boxing like a joke. This isn't a game, and eventually, that attitude is going to catch up with him. It's clear that while Jake's social media presence keeps him in the spotlight, it's also a distraction from the work he should be putting in. Rogan's warned that without the proper dedication to training, Jake's not going to stand a chance against a fighter who lives and breathes the sport. And let's be real, we've seen Jake making jokes on social media, but have we really seen him grinding day in and day out like the true boxing elites?
20 seconds. It's in the air. It's just like that. Yeah, so far. Exactly.
Did more workouts than what I've seen you than the whole time you fought Lennox Lewis.
Rogan also pointed out another key weakness in Jake's game, his inconsistent focus. 1 minute, Jake's training for a fight. The next minute, he's promoting his next venture or hanging out with celebrities. Joe believes that Jake's multifaceted career is hurting his focus in the ring. While Jake's got the star power to headline fights, his celebrity status might be pulling him away from the true discipline required to succeed in boxing. Jake might be making waves in the entertainment world, but Rogan's emphasized that boxing requires more than just part-time dedication. If Jake can't maintain a consistent focus on his boxing career, it's only a matter of time before he faces an opponent who's laser-focused and ready to take him down. Okay, let's be real. The hype for the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight is absolutely through the roof. This isn't just some regular bout, folks. We're talking about the legendary Mike Tyson stepping back into the ring to face one of the most controversial figures in boxing today. The fight is set to take place at the AT&T Arena in Arlington, Texas, and fans are going crazy. Tickets are selling like hotcakes, faster than you can even refresh the page. I mean, we're talking sellouts in minutes. Everyone and their mom wants to be there to witness what's being called the fight of the decade.
Is the real deal experience. Oh my God, Jake Paul, the kids love him. And then you have the legend Mike Tyson.
I got Jake Paul knocking him out.
People are hyped, and for good reason. You've got Jake Paul, the YouTuber turned boxer, who's been shaking things up in the sport against none other than Iron Mike Tyson, one of the most feared and respected fighters of all time. It's a clash of generations, a battle of styles, and fans are all in for this insane showdown. The energy surrounding this fight is like nothing we've seen before. The AT&T Arena is no small venue either, with a seating capacity of over 100,000. This fight is set to break records for attendance. It's not just a boxing match, it's an event, a spectacle, and fans from all over the world are ready to tune in and see whether Jake can stand up to the might of a living legend. And let's not forget, this isn't just any version of Mike Tyson stepping into the ring. According to Joe Rogan, Tyson is more ready than ever.
Mike Tyson that beat Larry Holmes, I think that Mike Tyson is the best heavyweight of all time. I don't think anybody with him.
Joe Rogan's been talking about this fight non-stop on his podcast. And here's what's crazy. Even Rogan, who's known for being super critical and analytical, is saying he does not see any weaknesses in Tyson's camp. That's right, folks. Tyson is still an absolute beast. Rogan's been following Tyson's training, and he's more than impressed with how sharp, fast, and powerful the man still is. Tyson has been grinding in the gym like a man on a mission. Age? What's that? It's just a number when it comes to Mike. Despite being nearly 60 years old, Tyson's power is still fully there. And if you think that's going to hold him back, you've got another thing coming. Just ask anyone who's been in the ring with him. Tyson hits like a freight train. His speed might not be what it was when he was 20, but his raw strength, that's something that doesn't fade. Tyson is still a knockout machine, and Rogan isn't seeing any signs of him slowing down. And here's the kicker. Tyson's not just hanging in there for these exhibition fights. He's knocking dudes out. Seriously, this man is still throwing bombs and putting people to sleep. We're talking about one of the hardest punchers in the history of the sport. And that's something Jake Paul is going to have to deal with. Rogan said it best. Mike Tyson isn't just showing up for a paycheck, he's coming to destroy. The crazy part is that even after all these years, Mike Tyson is still that same fighter who can change the entire outcome of a fight with one punch. Sure, he's older, but that doesn't take away from his legacy or the fact that he's still got what it takes to knock out anyone who steps in the ring with him. Joe Rogan made it clear, this isn't a Mike Tyson who's just here to go easy on Jake Paul. He's coming to make a statement. He's coming to show that he's still Iron Mike. Plus, Mike Tyson's undergoing hormone replacement therapy has been well documented. Even Joe Rogan has advocated the benefits he's reaped by going through the HRT treatment. During the recent JRE MMA show episode, the 56-year-old told his guest, Max Holloway, that hormone replacement, unlike other kinds of therapies, works wonders on people in their 50s.
Enable you to perform at your peak for longer durations.
Hormone replacement's a game changer.
Oh,
yeah. It's a different thing. Like, a 57-year-old man today, like Mike Tyson, it's like, that's not a 57-year-old man from 1990.
It is important to note that when hormone replacement therapy is administered to males, it focuses on the restoration of the balance of hormones in one's body. The treatment is focused on fixing the imbalance in testosterone levels, increasing the density of the bones, and re-energizing the male body. That's why Rogan claimed that the approach to health for people in their 50s now is totally different from the people who were in their 50s 3 decades ago. With only 8 days left before the big fight, the pressure is on Jake Paul like never before. Joe Rogan has exposed his weaknesses for the world to see, and now everyone is wondering, can Jake prove him wrong? Will he be able to fix his footwork, tighten up his defense, and find the stamina to go the distance? Or will his lack of experience, overconfidence, and divided focus be his undoing? Jake's got a lot to prove. He's taken the boxing world by storm, but now he's facing the harsh reality of what it takes to be a true champion. The question is, can he rise to the occasion? Or will Rogan's analysis of his weaknesses come true in front of millions of fans? All eyes are on Jake. The countdown is on. Will he silence his critics? Or will this be the fight where it all comes crashing down? So what do you think? Is Joe Rogan right about Jake Paul's biggest weakness? Can Jake fix it in time? Or will this be his downfall? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any updates leading up to the big fight.